And on Veterans Sunday, our United Methodist women design, sew, quilt, put together the Quilt of Valor. And it is something that they work on the whole year. Lots of hands go into the Quilt of Valor. They also, if you notice, we have some lap blankets over here on the rail. The UMW have quilted those, especially the Itch to Stitch group, and those get handed out at the VA, at Children's Hospital, at other hospitals. Lots of love and care goes into what our UMW do every year. They are a mission-based organization serving others. And so every year they select a veteran from the St. Luke's congregation to receive the Quilt of Valor. And often that person doesn't know that they've been chosen. So I'm not sure if we've kept the surprise for this year. We're going to find out in just a minute. So this is the Quilt of Valor, which is a nationwide event organization. There are Quilt of Valors that are handed out across the country. You have to do very specific things to be considered part of the Quilt of Valor group. And our UMW take this very serious to honor one of our veterans. So I am going to ask you to join me in honoring Bob Fritz as our Quilt of Valor recipient. I know he's here. There he is. Come on down, Bob.
Invite his wife.
I will. You were surprised? Were you surprised? You didn't know? I'd like to invite Peggy, Bob's wife, to come down and join us as well. She kept the secret really, really well. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Bob's service. There's too much to say in this time, so here are kind of some of the highlights. Bob served in the Air Force, was in active duty from 1971 to 1991. Oh, good, the family's all coming down. He was stationed at Mather Air Force Base, Castle Air Force Base, Travis Air Force Base, Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan, Wright Air Force Base. He attended officer school in Montgomery, Alabama, served at the Air Force office at Boeing in Seattle, was at Kirkland Air Force Base, and lastly stationed at Boeing in Wichita. I hope I got those right. While stationed in Okinawa, Bob flew C-130 aircraft. During the last weeks prior to the fall of Saigon, Bob flew several missions to Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base in Saigon. The first mission was to bring team members of the Joint Casualty Resolution Center out of Saigon along with their vehicles and POW MIA files. Other missions were to carry household goods of departing military and embassy personnel. The final missions were to carry Vietnamese refugees out of Saigon. His last mission was on the final day, and his plane actually never landed. The crew orbited for several hours above the South China Sea, just off Vietnam. During the flight, the crew listened to the radio chatter concerning the shutdown of the base, the launching of helicopters off aircraft carriers, and the flights to the embassy back and forth to those carriers, plus active air missions to protect the last evacuations from the city and country. As you can imagine, it was very chaotic. After hours of circling above the South China Sea, Bob and his crew received word that the base was shut down and they were sent to Thailand. There is, of course, many more stories that we could share about Bob and his service. Lots could be said, more than we can fill in this hour. If you have questions, I'm sure he might tell you some stories. And so the United Methodist Women lead us as a congregation in thanking Bob for his service, Peggy for all that she sacrifices as well, and all that Bob gave to the country, to his community, to his faith. So thank you once again for your service. This is yours to take with you today from the UMW and from St. Luke's. Oh, yes, and there's all of it is printed up nicely in this for you. So once again, would you thank me in recognizing Bob?